Welcome to a SIM code. CompTIA Security Plus Questions and Answers. A comprehensive guide to exam preparation. Q1. What is the principle of least privilege? A1. The principle of least privilege ensures users only have access to the resources required for their role. It minimizes the risk of accidental or malicious misuse of systems. Q2. What is a firewall? A2. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predetermined security rules. Q3. What is multi-factor authentication? MFA? A3. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a security mechanism that requires users to present two or more independent credentials for authentication. Q4. What is an intrusion detection system, IDS? A4. An intrusion detection system, IDS, monitors network traffic for suspicious activity. When potential threats are identified, the IDS alerts security personnel to take action. Q5. What is the purpose of a VPN, virtual private network? A5. A VPN encrypts data transmitted over the internet, ensuring that sensitive information remains secure. It allows users to securely connect to a remote network. Q6. What is encryption? A6. Encryption is the process of converting data into a code to prevent unauthorized access. It is often used to secure sensitive data transmitted over networks. Q7. What is a denial of service, DOS attack? A7. A DOS attack attempts to disrupt the normal traffic of a targeted server or network by overwhelming it with a flood of internet traffic. Q8. What is a public key infrastructure, PKI? A8. PKI is a framework for managing digital keys and certificates used for secure communications, ensuring encryption and identity validation. Q9. What is two-factor authentication, 2FA? A9. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, is an authentication method that requires two types of information from the user, typically something they know, password, and something they have, device token. Q10. What is social engineering? A10. Social engineering is the manipulation of individuals into revealing confidential information, typically by impersonating a trustworthy entity. Q11. What is a VPN concentrator? O11. A VPN concentrator is a device used to create and manage secure VPN connections, often used to connect remote users to a corporate network. Q12. What is an access control list? ACL? A 12. An ACL is a list of rules that defines permissions for users or groups to access specific resources on a network or system. Q13. What is a digital certificate? A 13. A digital certificate is an electronic document used to prove ownership of a public key, used in PKI systems for encrypting and verifying identity. Q14. What is the difference between a worm and a virus? A 14. A virus requires a host to replicate and spread, while a worm is self-replicating and does not need a host to propagate. Q15. What is a hash function? A 15. A hash function takes an input or message and returns a fixed size string of bytes, typically used to ensure data integrity. Q16. What is the role of a proxy server? A 16. A proxy server acts as an intermediary between the user and the internet, providing security, privacy, and caching services. Q17. What is a zero-day exploit? A 17. A zero-day exploit is a vulnerability in a software or hardware that is unknown to the vendor and for which no patch is available. Q18. What is a honeypot? A 18. A honeypot is a decoy system designed to attract attackers, providing insight into their methods and protecting valuable systems from real threats. Q19. What is the CIA triad? A 19. The CIA triad stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which are the three core principles of information security. Q20. What is a security incident response plan? A 20. A security incident response plan is a predefined set of procedures and guidelines designed to help organizations respond to and manage security breaches. Q21. What is a botnet? A 21. A botnet is a network of infected computers or devices controlled by a central attacker. These bots can be used for attacks like DDoS or spamming. Q22. What is an APT, Advanced Persistent Threat? A 22. An APT is a prolonged and targeted cyber attack that seeks to gain unauthorized access and remain undetected in a system for an extended period. Q23. What is a patch management process? A 23. Patch management involves regularly updating software to fix vulnerabilities, improve functionality, and ensure security by applying patches released by software vendors. Q24. What is the difference between a vulnerability and a threat? A 24. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system, while a threat is any potential danger that could exploit the vulnerability to harm the system. Q25. What is the purpose of a risk assessment? A 25. A risk assessment helps identify potential threats and vulnerabilities to an organization's assets, allowing for the prioritization of security measures. Q26. What is a risk register? A 26. A risk register is a document that lists all identified risks, their potential impact, and the steps taken to mitigate them. Q27. What is the function of a proxy server? A 27. A proxy server acts as an intermediary between a user and the internet, masking the user's IP address and providing privacy and security. Q28. What is a VPN tunnel? A 28. A VPN tunnel is a secure, encrypted connection between two devices over the internet, ensuring private data transmission. Q29. What is a port scanner? A 29. A port scanner is a tool used to discover open ports on a network, which can indicate potential vulnerabilities that may be exploited. Q30. What is a man-in-the-middle (MITM) attack? A 30. A MITM attack occurs when an attacker intercepts and potentially alters communication between two parties without their knowledge. Q31. What is a keylogger? A 31. A keylogger is a type of malware that records keystrokes on a victim's device, potentially stealing sensitive information like passwords. Q32. What is the purpose of digital signatures? A 32. Digital signatures ensure the authenticity of a message or document by verifying the sender's identity and ensuring the message has not been altered. Q33. What is a brute force attack? A 33. A brute force attack involves systematically trying all possible combinations to guess passwords or encryption keys. Q34. What is a Trojan horse? A 34. A Trojan horse is malicious software that disguises itself as legitimate software, often to trick users into installing it. Q35. What is phishing? A 35. Phishing is a form of social engineering attack where attackers impersonate a trustworthy entity to steal sensitive information, often through email or websites. Q36. What is a vulnerability scanner? A 36. A vulnerability scanner is a tool used to scan systems and networks for known vulnerabilities or weaknesses. Q37. What is the principle of separation of duties? A 37. Separation of duties is the practice of dividing tasks and responsibilities among different individuals to prevent fraud or errors. Q38. What is a security policy? A 38. A security policy is a set of rules and guidelines designed to protect an organization's assets and information. Q39. What is a zero trust model? A 39. The zero trust model is a security concept where trust is never assumed and access to resources is based on verification, regardless of the network origin. Q40. What is the purpose of an IDS, intrusion detection system? A 40. An IDS is used to detect unauthorized access or malicious activity within a network, alerting administrators to potential security incidents. Q41. What is an IPS, intrusion prevention system? A 41. An IPS actively blocks or prevents network traffic deemed harmful based on predefined security rules and patterns. Q42. What is malware? A 42. Malware is malicious software designed to harm, exploit, or compromise a computer system, such as viruses, worms, or ransomware. Q43. What is an authentication token? A 43. An authentication token is a physical or software-based device used to authenticate a user's identity in multi-factor authentication systems. Q44. What is the purpose of a backup strategy? A 44. A backup strategy ensures that critical data is regularly copied and stored safely to ensure business continuity in case of data loss or a cyber attack. Q45. What is the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption? A 45. Symmetric encryption uses the same key for both encryption and decryption, while asymmetric encryption uses a public key for encryption and a private key for decryption. Q46. What is the role of a CA, certificate authority? A 46. A certificate authority, CA, is a trusted organization that issues and manages digital certificates used for secure communication and encryption. Q47. What is the purpose of an HSM, hardware security module? A 47. An HSM is a physical device used to store and manage cryptographic keys and perform encryption/decryption operations securely. Q48. What is a DMZ, demilitarized zone? A 48. A DMZ is a physical or logical subnet that separates an internal network from external networks, often used to host publicly accessible services like web servers. Q49. What is a security audit? A 49. A security audit is a comprehensive evaluation of an organization's security policies, controls, and practices to identify vulnerabilities and ensure compliance. Q50. What is the principle of defense in depth? A 50. Defense in depth is a security strategy that involves multiple layers of defense to protect systems from a variety of threats. Q51. What is an incident response plan? A 51. An incident response plan outlines the steps an organization should take to detect, respond to, and recover from security incidents. Q52. What is a web application firewall? WAF? A 52. A WAF is a security device that filters and monitors HTTP/HTTPS traffic between a web application and the Internet, protecting against common web vulnerabilities. Q53. What is a secure socket layer? SSL? A 53. SSL is a protocol used to secure communications over the Internet by encrypting data between the client and server, ensuring confidentiality and integrity. Q54. What is a public key? A 54. A public key is a cryptographic key used in asymmetric encryption systems to encrypt data. It can be shared publicly without compromising security. Q55. What is the principle of least functionality? A 55. The principle of least functionality involves configuring systems to only run the minimum necessary services and applications to reduce the attack surface. Q56. What is ransomware? A 56. Ransomware is a type of malicious software that encrypts a victim's files or locks their system, demanding a ransom payment in exchange for restoring access. Q57. What is a sandbox? A 57. A sandbox is a testing environment where software or code can be run safely without affecting the system or network, often used to analyze malware. Q58. What is the difference between a full and incremental backup? A 58. A full backup copies all data, while an incremental backup only copies data that has changed since the last backup. Q59. What is an air gap? A 59. An air gap is a security measure where a system or network is physically isolated from unsecured or public networks, preventing unauthorized access. Q60. What is threat hunting? A 60. Threat hunting is a proactive security activity where security professionals search for signs of malicious activity within a network to identify potential threats before they cause harm. Q61. What is a firewall? A 61. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predetermined security rules. Q62. What is the function of a SIEM, Security Information and Event Management? A 62. A SIEM is used to collect, analyze, and store log data from various sources in real time to detect, monitor, and respond to security threats. Q63. What is social engineering? A 63. Social engineering involves manipulating individuals into revealing confidential information or performing actions that compromise security, often through deception. Q64. What is the purpose of a password policy? A 64. A password policy defines guidelines for creating, managing, and securing passwords to ensure that they are strong and resistant to attacks. Q65. What is two-factor authentication? A 65. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, is a security process that requires two forms of verification. Something you know, e.g., password, and something you have, e.g., a phone or token. Q66. What is in SQL injection? A 66. In SQL injection is a type of attack where malicious SQL code is inserted into an input field to exploit a vulnerability in a web application's database query. Q67. What is a zero-day exploit? A 67. A zero-day exploit is an attack that occurs when a cybercriminal exploits a previously unknown vulnerability in software before the vendor can issue a patch. Q68. What is a DDoS, distributed denial of service attack? A 68. A DDoS attack involves overwhelming a system, network, or server with a flood of traffic, making it unavailable to legitimate users. Q69. What is an AUP, acceptable use policy? A 69. An AUP is a set of rules and guidelines that define the appropriate and inappropriate use of an organization's network and computing resources. Q70. What is encryption? A 70. Encryption is the process of converting plaintext into unreadable ciphertext using an algorithm and a key to protect sensitive data. Q71. What is public key infrastructure? PKI? A 71. PKI is a framework that manages digital keys and certificates to enable secure communications and encryption over a network. Q72. What is a honeypot? A 72. A honeypot is a decoy system designed to attract and deceive attackers into targeting it, thus helping to detect or analyze their methods. Q73. What is the difference between a virus and a worm? A 73. A virus is a malicious program that attaches itself to a file and requires user action to spread, while a worm is self-replicating and spreads autonomously over networks. Q74. What is a data breach? A 74. A data breach occurs when unauthorized individuals gain access to sensitive or confidential information, often leading to data loss or theft. Q75. What is multi-factor authentication? A 75. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a security measure that requires two or more authentication factors. Something you know, something you have, or something you are. Q76. What is a digital certificate? A 76. A digital certificate is an electronic document used to prove the ownership of a public key in PKI and ensures secure communication through encryption. Q77. What is a vulnerability management program? A 77. A vulnerability management program involves identifying, assessing, prioritizing, and remediating security vulnerabilities in an organization's systems. Q78. What is a rootkit? A 78. A rootkit is a type of malware designed to hide the existence of certain processes or programs from normal detection methods, providing unauthorized access to systems. Q79. What is two-way authentication? A 79. Two-way authentication is a security process where both the user and the system authenticate each other, typically involving certificates and digital signatures. Q80. What is the principle of need to know? A 80. The need to know principle restricts access to sensitive information to only those individuals who require it to perform their job functions. Q81. What is an ACL, access control list? A 81. An ACL is a set of rules that control access to network resources, specifying which users or systems can access or modify particular files or services. Q82. What is a digital signature? A 82. A digital signature is a cryptographic technique used to verify the authenticity of a digital message or document, ensuring integrity and non-repudiation. Q83. What is a buffer overflow? A 83. A buffer overflow occurs when data exceeds the allocated buffer size, leading to memory corruption and potentially allowing an attacker to execute arbitrary code. Q84. What is the role of a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer? I-84. The CISO is responsible for overseeing the organization's information security strategy, policies, and programs to protect data and systems from cyber threats. Q85. What is the difference between IDS and IPS? I-85. An IDS, intrusion detection system, detects and alerts on potential security threats, while an IPS, intrusion prevention system, not only detects but also actively blocks harmful traffic. Q86. What is a threat actor? I-86. A threat actor is an individual or group responsible for initiating and executing cyber attacks, such as hackers, cyber criminals, or nation-state actors. Q87. What is the difference between symmetric and asymmetric key algorithms? I-87. Symmetric encryption uses the same key for both encryption and decryption, while asymmetric encryption uses a pair of keys, a public key for encryption and a private key for decryption. Q88. What is a patch? I-88. A patch is a software update designed to fix vulnerabilities, improve functionality, or address issues in an application or operating system. Q89. What is the function of DNS, domain name system? I-89. DNS translates human-readable domain names like www.example.com into IP addresses, allowing browsers to locate and access websites. Q90. What is an EDR, endpoint detection and response? A 90. EDR is a security solution that continuously monitors and detects suspicious activity on endpoints, like computers or servers, providing alerts and automated responses. Q91. What is a VPN, virtual private network? A 91. A VPN is a secure connection between a user's device and a remote server, encrypting traffic and masking the user's IP address to protect privacy. Q92. What is DNS spoofing? A 92. DNS spoofing, or cache poisoning, is an attack where fake DNS records are injected into a DNS resolver's cache, redirecting users to malicious websites. Q93. What is a public cloud? A 93. A public cloud is a computing environment where resources, such as servers and storage, are owned and operated by third-party cloud service providers and shared among multiple customers. Q94. What is a private cloud? A 94. A private cloud is a cloud computing environment that is used exclusively by one organization, either on premises or hosted by a third-party provider. Q95. What is a hybrid cloud? A 95. A hybrid cloud is a combination of both public and private cloud environments, allowing data and applications to be shared between them. Q96. What is an SSL/TLS certificate? A 96. An SSL/TLS certificate is a digital certificate that encrypts communications between a web server and a client, ensuring the confidentiality and integrity of data during transmission. Q97. What is a VPN concentrator? A 97. A VPN concentrator is a device that allows multiple VPN connections to be managed and aggregated into a secure, encrypted communication channel. Q98. What is an ethical hacker? A 98. An ethical hacker is a security professional who uses the same techniques as malicious hackers to identify and fix security vulnerabilities in systems. Q99. What is a tokenization process? A 99. Tokenization is a process that replaces sensitive data, such as credit card numbers, with unique, non-sensitive identifiers, tokens, to protect data during processing. Q100. What is a disaster recovery plan? A 100. A disaster recovery plan outlines procedures to recover and restore IT systems, data, and applications after a disruption or disaster, ensuring business continuity. Q101. What is the principle of least privilege? A 101. The principle of least privilege means providing users, applications, and systems with the minimum access rights necessary to perform their tasks, reducing the risk of accidental or intentional misuse. Q102. What is a man-in-the-middle attack? A 102. A man-in-the-middle attack occurs when an attacker intercepts and alters communication between two parties without their knowledge, often to steal sensitive information. Q103. What is a VPN split tunneling? A 103. Split tunneling is a VPN configuration that allows users to access both the VPN and the Internet simultaneously, with some traffic routed through the VPN and other traffic directly to the Internet. Q104. What is the role of a Security Operations Center, SOC? A 104. A SOC is a centralized unit that monitors and analyzes an organization's security posture, detects and responds to incidents, and ensures the overall security of IT systems. Q105. What is a radius? Remote authentication dial-in user service. A 105. Radius is a protocol that provides centralized authentication, authorization, and accounting for network access, commonly used in wireless and VPN environments. Q106. What is the purpose of a DMZ, demilitarized zone? A 106. A DMZ is a network segment that separates an internal network from an external network, such as the Internet, providing an additional layer of security for publicly accessible services like web servers. Q107. What is a security policy? A 107. A security policy is a set of guidelines and rules that define an organization's approach to security, including risk management, user access, and system protection. Q108. What is the purpose of a business continuity plan? BCP. A 108. A BCP outlines procedures for ensuring that critical business functions continue during and after a disaster or major disruption, minimizing downtime and financial losses. Q109. What is multi-layer security? A 109. Multi-layer security refers to implementing multiple security measures across various layers of an IT environment, such as firewalls, encryption, and intrusion detection systems, to provide comprehensive protection. Q110. What is the function of a proxy server? A 110. A proxy server acts as an intermediary between a client and a server, filtering requests, hiding user IP addresses, and providing security benefits such as content caching and access control. Q111. What is a botnet? A 111. A botnet is a network of compromised devices, called bots, controlled by a cybercriminal, often used to carry out large-scale attacks like DDoS or to spread malware. Q112. What is a PKI, public key infrastructure? A 112. PKI is a framework that manages digital keys and certificates to enable secure communication, encryption, and authentication over networks. Q113. What is data classification? A 113. Data classification is the process of organizing data into categories based on its sensitivity, importance, and the level of protection required. Q114. What is an encryption algorithm? A 114. An encryption algorithm is a mathematical process used to convert plaintext data into ciphertext, making it unreadable without the decryption key. Q115. What is an insider threat? A 115. An insider threat refers to a security risk posed by individuals within the organization, such as employees, contractors, or business partners, who misuse their access to systems or data. Q116. What is a security audit? A 116. A security audit is a systematic evaluation of an organization's security policies, controls, and practices to identify vulnerabilities and ensure compliance with standards and regulations. Q117. What is a vulnerability? A 117. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system, application, or network that could be exploited by an attacker to gain unauthorized access or cause harm. Q118. What is network segmentation? A 118. Network segmentation involves dividing a computer network into smaller subnetworks to improve security, reduce congestion, and control access. Q119. What is an access control model? A 119. An access control model defines the rules and permissions for granting or restricting access to resources within an organization. Examples include discretionary access control, DAC, and mandatory access control, MAC. Q120. What is a disaster recovery site? A 120. A disaster recovery site is an alternate location where an organization can recover critical IT systems and data in the event of a disaster, ensuring business continuity. Q121. What is data loss prevention? DLP? A 121. DLP is a set of technologies and policies used to detect and prevent unauthorized transmission or leakage of sensitive data outside of an organization's network. Q122. What is a Trojan horse? A 122. A Trojan horse is a type of malware that disguises itself as legitimate software to trick users into installing it, enabling the attacker to gain unauthorized access to a system. Q123. What is a honeynet? A 123. A honeynet is a network of honeypots used to attract and deceive attackers, providing a controlled environment for studying and analyzing their techniques. Q124. What is a digital footprint? A 124. A digital footprint is the trail of data and information left behind by an individual's online activities, including social media posts, web browsing, and interactions with websites. Q125. What is a zero trust architecture? A 125. Zero trust is a security model that assumes no trust by default, requiring strict identity verification and access controls for every user, device, and application, regardless of location. Q126. What is a security token? A 126. A security token is a hardware or software device used to authenticate users by generating time-based one-time passwords, TOTP, or by storing digital certificates. Q127. What is a session hijacking attack? A 127. A session hijacking attack occurs when an attacker takes control of a user's active session, often to gain unauthorized access to sensitive systems or data. Q128. What is a brute force attack? A 128. A brute force attack is a type of password attack where an attacker tries every possible combination of characters until the correct password is found. Q129. What is network sniffing? A 129. Network sniffing is the process of capturing and analyzing network traffic to intercept sensitive information, such as login credentials or personal data. Q130. What is a security incident? A 130. A security incident is any event that compromises the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of an organization's information or systems. Q131. What is a risk assessment? A 131. A risk assessment is the process of identifying, evaluating, and prioritizing risks to an organization's assets and determining appropriate mitigation strategies. Q132. What is a man trap? A 132. A man trap is a physical security control designed to prevent unauthorized access to secure areas, typically consisting of two doors with access control in between. Q133. What is a security patch? A 133. A security patch is an update released by software vendors to fix vulnerabilities, bugs, or other issues that could expose a system to cyber attacks. Q134. What is a content filtering? A 134. Content filtering is the process of blocking or restricting access to certain content on the internet or within a network based on predefined policies. Q135. What is a physical security? A 135. Physical security refers to measures taken to protect an organization's physical assets, such as buildings, equipment, and personnel, from physical threats like theft or vandalism. Q136. What is an audit trail? A 136. An audit trail is a record of system or user activity that can be used to track and review events or actions taken within an IT system for security and compliance purposes. Q137. What is an IoT security? A 137. IoT security involves protecting the growing network of interconnected devices, such as smart sensors, cameras, and appliances, from security threats like unauthorized access or malware. Q138. What is an advanced persistent threat? APT? A 138. An APT is a prolonged and targeted cyber attack designed to infiltrate and remain undetected within an organization's systems to steal sensitive information over time. Q139. What is an exploit? A 139. An exploit is a piece of software, code, or sequence of commands that takes advantage of a vulnerability in a system to gain unauthorized access or cause damage. Q140. What is a vulnerability scanner? A 140. A vulnerability scanner is a tool used to automatically identify and assess vulnerabilities in a system, application, or network to help organizations patch or remediate security weaknesses. Q141. What is the difference between asymmetric and symmetric encryption? A 141. Symmetric encryption uses the same key for both encryption and decryption, while asymmetric encryption uses a pair of public and private keys for the process. Q142. What is the role of a firewall? A 142. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and filters incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predefined security rules. Q143. What is the difference between a virus and a worm? A 143. A virus requires a host program to run, while a worm is a standalone program that spreads autonomously across networks and systems. Q144. What is a ransomware attack? A 144. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts the victim's files and demands payment, ransom, to restore access. Q145. What is social engineering? A 145. Social engineering is a technique used by attackers to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. Q146. What is a dictionary attack? A 146. A dictionary attack is a password cracking method where an attacker uses a precompiled list of common words or phrases, a dictionary, to guess a password. Q147. What is the purpose of a digital signature? A 147. A digital signature is used to verify the authenticity of a message or document, ensuring that it has not been altered and confirming the sender's identity. Q148. What is a vulnerability assessment? A 148. A vulnerability assessment is the process of identifying, evaluating, and prioritizing vulnerabilities in a system or network to take appropriate remediation actions. Q149. What is an IPsec? A 149. IPsec, Internet Protocol Security, is a suite of protocols used to secure IP communications by authenticating and encrypting each IP packet in a communication session. Q150. What is the difference between a public and private key? A 150. A public key is used to encrypt data and can be shared publicly, while a private key is kept secret and is used to decrypt data that was encrypted with the corresponding public key. Q151. What is a SQL injection? A 151. A SQL injection is a type of attack where an attacker manipulates an SQL query to execute arbitrary commands on a database, potentially exposing sensitive data. Q152. What is an access control list, ACL? A 152. An ACL is a list of rules that define which users or devices have access to specific resources or services in a network and what actions they are allowed to perform. Q153. What is the purpose of two-factor authentication, 2FA? A 153, two-factor authentication, 2FA, is a security method that requires two forms of identification: something the user knows, e.g., password, and something the user has, e.g., a phone or security token. Q154. What is an IDS, intrusion detection system? A 154. An IDS is a security system that monitors network or system activities for suspicious activities or intrusions and alerts administrators to potential threats. Q155. What is a hashing algorithm? A 155. A hashing algorithm is a function that takes input data and returns a fixed-length string, hash, that represents the data. It is commonly used in data integrity checks and password storage. Q156. What is a phishing attack? A 156. A phishing attack is a type of social engineering where an attacker impersonates a legitimate entity in order to steal sensitive information, such as login credentials or credit card numbers. Q157. What is a sandbox in cybersecurity? A 157. A sandbox is an isolated environment used to safely execute and analyze potentially malicious code without affecting the rest of the system or network. Q158. What is the purpose of encryption? A 158. Encryption is the process of converting readable data into an unreadable format using an algorithm, making it secure from unauthorized access. Q159. What is a denial of service DOS attack? A 159. A DOS attack occurs when an attacker overwhelms a system or network with traffic, making it unavailable to users and causing service disruptions. Q160. What is an endpoint protection solution? A 160. An endpoint protection solution secures end-user devices, e.g., laptops, smartphones, from security threats such as malware, ransomware, and unauthorized access. Q161. What is a honeypot? A 161. A honeypot is a decoy system or network designed to attract attackers in order to monitor their behavior and learn about their tactics. Q162. What is the role of a SIEM, Security Information and Event Management System? A 162. A SIEM system collects, analyzes, and correlates security event data from multiple sources in real time to identify and respond to potential threats. Q163. What is the concept of defense in depth? A 163. Defense in depth is a security strategy that uses multiple layers of defense, e.g., firewalls, antivirus software, encryption, to protect an organization's assets from various types of threats. Q164. What is the role of encryption in ensuring data confidentiality? A 164. Encryption ensures data confidentiality by transforming sensitive information into an unreadable format, preventing unauthorized access to the data. Q165. What is a patch management process? A 165. Patch management involves regularly updating software and systems to fix security vulnerabilities, bugs, and other issues by applying patches released by software vendors. Q166. What is a Trojan horse? A 166. A Trojan horse is a type of malware that disguises itself as legitimate software to trick users into installing it, allowing attackers to gain unauthorized access to the system. Q167. What is the purpose of a backup in data protection? A 167. A backup is a copy of data that is stored separately from the original. It is used to restore data in case of loss, corruption, or a security incident such as ransomware. Q168. What is a risk matrix? A 168. A risk matrix is a tool used to assess and prioritize risks based on the likelihood of occurrence and the impact on the organization. Q169. What is the principle of separation of duties? A 169. Separation of duties is a security principle that involves dividing tasks and responsibilities among multiple individuals to prevent fraud and reduce the risk of unauthorized actions. Q170. What is an SSL/TLS certificate? A 170. An SSL/TLS certificate is a digital certificate used to establish a secure, encrypted connection between a web server and a client, ensuring data confidentiality and integrity. Q171. What is the purpose of a VPN? A 171. A VPN, virtual private network, creates a secure, encrypted connection over a public network. allowing users to access resources remotely while ensuring data confidentiality and security. Q172. What is an access token? A 172. An access token is a credential used by a user or system to access resources or services, often used in authentication protocols such as OAuth. Q173. What is a brute force password attack? A 173. A brute force attack is a method of cracking passwords by systematically trying all possible combinations of characters until the correct password is found. Q174. What is a security policy? A 174. A security policy is a formal set of rules and guidelines that govern how an organization protects its information assets, defines user behavior, and establishes security measures. Q175. What is a network intrusion? A 175. A network intrusion occurs when an unauthorized user or attacker gains access to a network, potentially compromising the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of data or systems. Q176. What is a web application firewall? WAF? A 176. A WEF is a security tool that monitors and filters HTTP traffic between a web application and the Internet to prevent attacks like SQL injection and cross-site scripting, XSS. Q177. What is a phishing scam? A 177. A phishing scam involves an attacker impersonating a trusted entity to trick individuals into disclosing sensitive information, such as login credentials or financial details. Q178. What is an attack vector? A 178. An attack vector is a path or method that an attacker uses to gain unauthorized access to a system or network, such as email attachments, vulnerabilities, or weak passwords. Q179. What is a keylogger? A 179. A keylogger is a type of malware that records keystrokes made by a user on their device, often used to capture sensitive information like passwords and credit card numbers. Q180. What is a rootkit? A 180. A rootkit is a type of malware that hides its presence and activity within a system, allowing an attacker to maintain privileged access and evade detection. Q181. What is multi-factor authentication? MFA? A 181. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a security mechanism that requires two or more forms of authentication from different categories, e.g., something you know, something you have, something you are. Q182. What is a proxy server? A 182. A proxy server is an intermediary server that sits between a client and a destination server used to improve performance, filter content, or enhance security. Q183. What is a DMZ, demilitarized zone? A 183. A DMZ is a network segment that separates an internal network from an external network, such as the Internet. It is typically used to host public-facing services like web servers and email servers. Q184. What is a risk assessment? A 184. A risk assessment is the process of identifying, evaluating, and prioritizing risks to an organization's assets, followed by actions to mitigate or accept those risks. Q185. What is a vulnerability scanner? A 185. A vulnerability scanner is a tool used to automatically identify and assess vulnerabilities in a network or system, helping organizations prioritize remediation actions. Q186. What is a key difference between a virus and a Trojan? A 186. A virus attaches itself to a legitimate program to spread and replicate, while a Trojan disguises itself as legitimate software to gain unauthorized access. Q187. What is a brute force attack? A 187. A brute force attack is a method of cracking passwords or encryption by trying all possible combinations of characters until the correct one is found. Q188. What is the purpose of an SSL/TLS handshake? A 188. The SSL/TLS handshake is a process in which the client and server establish a secure, encrypted communication channel by verifying each other's identities and agreeing on encryption parameters. Q189. What is a digital certificate? A 189. A digital certificate is an electronic document used to prove the ownership of a public key. It includes information about the entity and the public key and is issued by a trusted certificate authority, CA. Q190. What is a MAC address? A 190. A MAC, Media Access Control, address is a unique identifier assigned to the network interface card, NIC, of a device, used to identify it within a local network. Q191. What is a buffer overflow? A 191. A buffer overflow occurs when a program writes more data to a buffer than it can hold, potentially overriding adjacent memory, leading to system crashes or vulnerabilities that can be exploited by attackers. Q192. What is port scanning? A 192. Port scanning is a method used to identify open ports on a target system, which may reveal potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited. Q193. What is the principle of least privilege? A 193. The principle of least privilege is a security concept that ensures users and systems only have the minimum level of access required to perform their tasks, reducing the risk of accidental or intentional misuse. Q194. What is an antivirus program? A 194. An antivirus program is a software tool designed to detect, prevent, and remove malicious software, malware, from a computer system. Q195. What is an attack surface? A 195. An attack surface refers to the total set of vulnerabilities or points of entry into a system or network that can be exploited by an attacker. Q196. What is the difference between a vulnerability and a threat? A 196. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system or process that can be exploited by an attacker, while a threat is a potential cause of harm or damage to the system or organization. Q197. What is a man-in-the-middle MITM attack? A 197. A MITM attack occurs when an attacker intercepts and potentially alters the communication between two parties, often with the intent to steal sensitive information or inject malicious content. Q198. What is a disaster recovery plan? DRP? A 198. A disaster recovery plan, DRP, is a documented strategy outlining the processes, resources, and actions required to recover from a disaster or critical event that affects business operations. Q199. What is a secure boot process? A 199. A secure boot process is a security feature that ensures only trusted software can run during the startup of a computer, preventing malware from being executed before the operating system loads. Q200. What is a web application firewall? WAF? A 200. A WAF is a security system designed to monitor and filter HTTP traffic between a web server and a client, protecting web applications from attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, XSS, and others. Q201. What is an RTO? Recovery time objective? A 201. The RTO is the maximum acceptable amount of time that an application or system can be down after a disruption before it impacts business operations. Q202. What is a root cause analysis? A 202. Root cause analysis is a process used to identify the underlying causes of a problem or incident, aiming to prevent recurrence and improve future processes. Q203. What is a penetration test? A 203. A penetration test is a simulated cyber attack conducted by security professionals to identify vulnerabilities and weaknesses in a system, application, or network. Q204. What is data masking? A 204. Data masking is the process of replacing sensitive data with fictional or scrambled values to protect it while retaining its usability for testing or analysis purposes. Q205. What is the purpose of a certificate authority, CA? A 205. A certificate authority, CA, is a trusted organization that issues digital certificates to verify the identity of users, devices, or websites and facilitate secure communication. Q206. What is an air gap? A 206. An air gap is a security measure where a network or system is physically isolated from other networks, especially from the internet, to reduce the risk of cyber attacks. Q207. What is a hash function? A 207. A hash function is a cryptographic algorithm that takes input data and converts it into a fixed-length string of characters, often used to verify data integrity and store password hashes. Q208. What is an XSS cross-site scripting attack? A 208. An XSS attack is a vulnerability in web applications that allows an attacker to inject malicious scripts into web pages, which are then executed in a user's browser. Q209. What is a botnet? A 209. A botnet is a network of compromised computers or devices controlled remotely by an attacker, often used to carry out distributed denial of service, DDoS, attacks, or spread malware. Q210. What is encryption at rest? A 210. Encryption at rest refers to the process of encrypting data while it is stored on a device or server, ensuring that it remains secure even if the storage media is compromised. Q211. What is the difference between encryption and hashing? A 211. Encryption is a reversible process used to secure data, while hashing is a one-way process used to generate a fixed length value that represents data, typically used for integrity checks. Q212. What is a DDoS, distributed denial of service attack? A 212. A DDoS attack involves overwhelming a target system or network with traffic from multiple sources, causing a disruption in service availability. Q213. What is security patching? A 213. Security patching involves applying software updates or fixes to address vulnerabilities, bugs, and security flaws within applications, operating systems, and network devices. Q214. What is an incident response plan? A 214. An incident response plan is a predefined set of procedures to follow when a security breach or incident occurs, ensuring that the response is effective and minimizes damage. Q215. What is a SIEM, Security Information and Event Management System? A 215. A SIEM system is a tool used to collect, analyze, and correlate security event data from various sources to detect potential threats and assist in incident response. Q216. What is the principle of data minimization? A 216. The principle of data minimization is a concept in data privacy that advocates for collecting and storing only the minimum amount of data necessary to achieve a specific purpose. Q217. What is a security baseline? A 217. A security baseline is a set of minimum security standards and configurations required to protect an organization's systems and data. Q218. What is a vulnerability exploit? A 218. A vulnerability exploit is a technique or method used by an attacker to take advantage of a security weakness or flaw in a system or application. Q219. What is the purpose of logging in cybersecurity? A 219. Logging involves recording detailed information about system and network activities, which can be used for detecting security incidents, forensic analysis, and compliance purposes. Q220. What is the role of a security administrator? A 220. A security administrator is responsible for implementing and managing security measures, such as firewalls, encryption, and access controls, to protect an organization's network and data. Q221. What is a public key infrastructure, PKI? A 221. Public Key Infrastructure, PKI, is a framework for managing digital keys and certificates, providing the tools for secure communication through encryption, digital signatures, and authentication. Q222. What is social engineering? A 222. Social engineering is the act of manipulating individuals into revealing confidential information, often through deceit or exploiting trust, rather than using technical methods. Q223. What is a vulnerability management program? A 223. A vulnerability management program involves continuously identifying, assessing, prioritizing, and mitigating vulnerabilities within an organization's systems and networks. Q224. What is a firewall? A 224. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predetermined security rules, often used to prevent unauthorized access. Q225. What is the purpose of a data classification scheme? A 225. A data classification scheme helps organizations categorize data based on sensitivity and criticality, guiding decisions on handling, storage, and protection measures. Q226. What is a DNS spoofing attack? A 226. A DNS spoofing attack involves manipulating DNS records to redirect traffic from legitimate websites to malicious ones, often used for phishing attacks. Q227. What is a VPN, virtual private network? A 227. A VPN is a technology that allows users to create a secure and encrypted connection to a private network over the internet, protecting data confidentiality and privacy. Q228. What is an intrusion detection system, IDS? A 228. An IDS is a security tool designed to monitor network or system activities for malicious activities or policy violations, alerting administrators to potential security incidents. Q229. What is an intrusion prevention system, IPS? A 229. An IPS is a security system that actively monitors network traffic for malicious activity and can take action, such as blocking traffic or alerting administrators, to prevent attacks. Q230. What is two-factor authentication, 2FA? A 230, two-factor authentication, 2FA, is a security process in which the user is required to provide two forms of authentication, typically something they know, password, and something they have, token or device. Q231. What is a security token? A 231. A security token is a physical device or software application used in multi-factor authentication to generate a time-sensitive code or verify a user's identity. Q232. What is SQL injection? A 232. SQL injection is an attack that exploits vulnerabilities in web applications by injecting malicious SQL code into input fields, allowing attackers to access and manipulate the database. Q233. What is patch management? A 233. Patch management is the process of identifying, acquiring, testing, and applying updates or patches to software and hardware to fix security vulnerabilities and bugs. Q234. What is a honeypot? A 234. A honeypot is a decoy system or resource that is intentionally left vulnerable to attract attackers, allowing organizations to monitor malicious activity and gather intelligence. Q235. What is an endpoint? A 235. An endpoint is any device connected to a network, such as computers, smartphones, servers, or IoT devices, which can serve as a potential entry point for attackers. Q236. What is a rootkit? A 236. A rootkit is a type of malware designed to gain administrative control over a computer system, often hiding its presence to avoid detection. Q237. What is a man in the browser (MITB) attack? A 237. A MITB attack is a type of man-in-the-middle attack in which the attacker compromises the victim's browser, altering its behavior without detection. Q238. What is a software-defined network (SDN)? A 238. A software-defined network (SDN) is a network architecture that allows for programmable and centralized control of network resources, providing flexibility and scalability. Q239. What is a public key? A 239. A public key is part of a cryptographic key pair used to encrypt data or verify digital signatures. It is typically shared openly, while the private key remains secret. Q240. What is a private key? A 240. A private key is part of a cryptographic key pair used to decrypt data or sign digital messages. It must remain secret to ensure the security of encrypted communication. Q241. What is an audit trail? A 241. An audit trail is a chronological record of system or network activities used to track and verify the sequence of events, assisting in compliance and forensic investigations. Q242. What is an access control list, ACL? A 242. An access control list, ACL, is a list of rules that define permissions for users or systems to access or interact with network resources or devices. Q243. What is a DMZ, demilitarized zone? A 243. A DMZ is a network zone placed between an internal network and the Internet, designed to host publicly accessible services while limiting exposure to the internal network. Q244. What is a denial of service, DOS attack? A 244. A DOS attack is an attempt to make a service or network unavailable by overwhelming it with traffic, causing disruptions or shutdowns of legitimate services. Q245. What is an access control system? A 245. An access control system manages who can access resources within an organization based on user roles and permissions, often through mechanisms like biometrics, cards, or passwords. Q246. What is an asymmetric encryption algorithm? A 246. An asymmetric encryption algorithm uses two separate keys, a public key for encryption and a private key for decryption. Examples include RSA and ECC. Q247. What is a symmetric encryption algorithm? A 247. A symmetric encryption algorithm uses the same key for both encryption and decryption. Examples include AES and DES. Q248. What is data exfiltration? A 248. Data exfiltration is the unauthorized transfer or extraction of sensitive data from an organization's systems, often by an attacker to steal information. Q249. What is a security information and event management (SIEM) system? A 249. A SIEM system collects, analyzes, and correlates data from various sources in real time to detect and respond to security incidents and threats. Q250. What is a patch? A 250. A patch is an update to software or hardware that fixes vulnerabilities or bugs, enhancing performance or security. Q251. What is a network sniffer? A 251. A network sniffer is a tool used to capture and analyze network traffic, often used for troubleshooting, monitoring, or detecting malicious activity. Q252. What is a malware sandbox? A 252. A malware sandbox is a controlled environment used to execute and analyze potentially malicious software without risking harm to the actual system or network. Q253. What is an attack vector? A 253. An attack vector is a path or method that an attacker uses to gain unauthorized access to a system or network. Q254. What is a security policy? A 254. A security policy is a set of guidelines and rules established by an organization to protect its assets, including hardware, software, data, and personnel. Q255. What is a vulnerability? A 255. A vulnerability is a weakness or flaw in a system, application, or process that can be exploited by an attacker to gain unauthorized access or cause harm. Q256. What is threat intelligence? A 256. Threat intelligence is information about potential or current threats, including techniques, tactics, and procedures, TTPs, used to enhance security posture and incident response. Q257. What is a risk register? A 257. A risk register is a tool used to document identified risks, their potential impact, likelihood, and the organization's response to mitigate or manage those risks. Q258. What is a cybersecurity framework? A 258. A cybersecurity framework is a set of standards, guidelines, and best practices that help organizations manage and reduce cybersecurity risks. Q259. What is penetration testing? A 259. Penetration testing is the practice of simulating attacks on a system or network to identify vulnerabilities and assess the effectiveness of security measures. Q260. What is the role of encryption in data security? A 260. Encryption protects data confidentiality by converting plaintext into ciphertext, making it unreadable without the decryption key, ensuring secure data storage and transmission. Q261. What is a man-in-the-middle (MITM) attack? A 261. A MITM attack occurs when an attacker intercepts and potentially alters the communication between two parties without their knowledge, often used to steal sensitive data or inject malicious content. Q262. What is the role of a security policy in an organization? A 262. A security policy defines an organization's security objectives, guidelines, and procedures to protect information systems and resources, providing a framework for decision-making and risk management. Q263. What is the principle of least privilege? A 263. The principle of least privilege is the practice of giving users and systems the minimum access rights necessary to perform their functions, reducing the risk of accidental or intentional damage. Q264. What is a brute force attack? A 264. A brute force attack is a method of breaking into an account or system by systematically trying all possible passwords or encryption keys until the correct one is found. Q265. What is the function of a proxy server? A 265. A proxy server acts as an intermediary between a user and the internet, forwarding requests and responses to help hide the user's identity, improve security, and filter content. Q266. What is a security baseline? A 266. A security baseline is a set of minimum security standards and configurations required for systems, applications, or devices to ensure consistent protection across the organization. Q267. What is an encryption key? A 267. An encryption key is a piece of data used by cryptographic algorithms to transform plaintext into ciphertext, encryption, or ciphertext back into plaintext, decryption. Q268. What is a threat actor? A 268. A threat actor is an individual or group responsible for carrying out cyber attacks, including hackers, cybercriminals, hacktivists, and nation-state actors. Q269. What is the difference between a virus and a worm? A 269. A virus is a type of malware that attaches itself to legitimate files and spreads when the files are shared, while a worm is a standalone malicious program that replicates itself across networks. Q270. What is DenSec? A 270, DenSec, Domain Name System Security Extensions, is a suite of security protocols used to protect against attacks on DNS by digitally signing DNS records, ensuring data integrity and authenticity. Q271. What is a vulnerability scan? A 271. A vulnerability scan is an automated process of identifying known vulnerabilities in systems or networks, typically used to assess and manage security risks. Q272. What is a risk assessment? A 272. A risk assessment is the process of identifying, evaluating, and prioritizing risks to an organization's assets and operations, followed by the implementation of risk mitigation strategies. Q273. What is network segmentation? A 273. Network segmentation involves dividing a larger network into smaller, isolated segments to improve security, limit the spread of attacks, and reduce the attack surface. Q274. What is multi-factor authentication? MFA? A 274, multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a security process that requires two or more verification factors, e.g., password, phone number, or biometric scan, to access a system, enhancing security. Q275. What is a security audit? A 275. A security audit is a systematic review of an organization's security policies, controls, and practices to assess the effectiveness of its security measures and identify potential vulnerabilities. Q276. What is the difference between data at rest and data in transit? A 276. Data at rest refers to data stored on devices or systems, while data in transit refers to data actively being transmitted over a network. Both types require encryption to ensure security. Q277. What is a business continuity plan? BCP? A 277. A business continuity plan, BCP, is a strategy that outlines how an organization will maintain essential operations during and after a disruption, such as a natural disaster, cyber attack, or other incidents. Q278. What is a disaster recovery plan? DRP? A 278. A disaster recovery plan, DRP, is a detailed strategy to recover IT systems, data, and applications after a disaster or breach, ensuring minimal downtime and data loss. Q279. What is phishing? A 279. Phishing is a type of social engineering attack where attackers impersonate legitimate organizations to trick individuals into disclosing sensitive information, such as usernames and passwords. Q280. What is spear phishing? A 280. Spear phishing is a more targeted form of phishing in which attackers customize their fraudulent messages to specific individuals or organizations, often using information about the victim to appear more legitimate. Q281. What is a security patch? A 281. A security patch is an update or fix applied to software or hardware to address vulnerabilities and bugs, enhancing security and preventing exploitation by attackers. Q282. What is a keylogger? A 282. A keylogger is a type of malicious software that records keystrokes on a device, often used to capture sensitive data such as usernames, passwords, and credit card information. Q283. What is a Trojan horse? A 283. A Trojan horse is a type of malware that disguises itself as legitimate software or files to trick users into executing it, allowing attackers to gain access to systems or steal data. Q284. What is an IP address? A 284. An IP address is a unique numerical identifier assigned to devices on a network, used to route data between devices and ensure correct delivery of communications. Q285. What is a distributed denial of service DDoS attack? A 285. A DDoS attack involves overwhelming a target system with a flood of traffic from multiple sources, making the system unavailable to legitimate users. Q286. What is the role of a cryptographic hash? A 286. A cryptographic hash is a one-way function that converts input data, e.g., a file or message, into a fixed-length output, used for data integrity verification and digital signatures. Q287. What is a certificate authority, CA? A 287. A certificate authority, CA, is a trusted entity that issues digital certificates to authenticate the identity of individuals, websites, and organizations in public key infrastructure, PKI. Q288. What is a digital signature? A 288. A digital signature is a cryptographic mechanism used to verify the authenticity and integrity of a digital message or document, ensuring it has not been tampered with and is from the claimed sender. Q289. What is a security control? A 289. A security control is a measure implemented to protect information systems, assets, and data from threats, including technical controls, e.g., firewalls, administrative controls, e.g., policies, and physical controls, e.g., access control. Q290. What is a cryptographic protocol? A 290. A cryptographic protocol is a set of rules or algorithms used to secure communication or transactions over networks, such as SSL/TLS for secure web browsing or IPsec for secure IP communication. Q291. What is a man-in-the-middle attack, MITM? A 291. A man-in-the-middle (MITM) attack occurs when an attacker intercepts and possibly alters communication between two parties, often to steal sensitive information or manipulate data. Q292. What is a botnet? A 292. A botnet is a network of compromised computers or devices controlled by an attacker, often used for launching large-scale attacks like DDoS or spreading malware. Q293. What is the principle of separation of duties? A 293. The principle of separation of duties ensures that no single individual has control over all aspects of a sensitive process, reducing the risk of fraud, errors, or malicious actions. Q294. What is an RTO? Recovery time objective? A 294. RTO is the maximum allowable time for restoring a system or service after a disruption, specifying how long it takes to resume normal operations. Q295. What is an RPO? Recovery point objective? A 295. RPO is the maximum acceptable amount of data loss during a disaster, specifying how far back in time data can be restored. Q296. What is a zero-day attack? A 296. A zero-day attack targets a vulnerability in software or hardware that is unknown to the vendor, making it unpatched and vulnerable to exploitation by attackers. Q297. What is an access control model? A 297. An access control model is a framework used to define and enforce security policies for accessing resources, such as discretionary access control, DAC, mandatory access control, MAC, and role-based access control, RBAC. Q298. What is security through obscurity? A 298. Security through obscurity involves relying on secrecy or hidden details, e.g., hiding the implementation of a security mechanism as a primary defense, rather than using robust security practices. Q299. What is a penetration test? A 299. A penetration test is an authorized simulated cyber attack on a system or network to identify and exploit vulnerabilities, helping organizations improve security defenses. Q300. What is a network access control, NAC? A 300. Network access control, NAC, is a security solution that enforces policies for device access to a network, ensuring only compliant devices can connect and limiting the exposure of vulnerable systems. Q301. What is a hash function? A 301. A hash function is a mathematical function that takes an input or message and returns a fixed size string of bytes. It is typically used to verify data integrity. Q302. What is an air gap in cybersecurity? A 302. An air gap is a physical separation between a secure network and an external network, typically used to ensure that sensitive systems are not vulnerable to online threats. Q303. What is social engineering? A 303. Social engineering is the manipulation of individuals into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security, often through deceptive methods. Q304. What is the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption? A 304. Symmetric encryption uses the same key for both encryption and decryption, while asymmetric encryption uses a pair of keys, a public and a private key, for encryption and decryption. Q305. What is a rootkit? A 305. A rootkit is a type of malicious software that enables an attacker to maintain privileged access to a system while hiding its presence and activity. Q306. What is the purpose of a firewall? A 306. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing traffic based on predefined security rules, acting as a barrier between trusted and untrusted networks. Q307. What is a digital certificate? A 307. A digital certificate is an electronic document used to prove the ownership of a public key. It includes information about the certificate holder and is issued by a certificate authority, CA. Q308. What is an endpoint in cybersecurity? A 308. An endpoint refers to any device or node that is connected to a network, such as computers, smartphones, tablets, or IoT devices, which are potential targets for cyber attacks. Q309. What is a security event? A 309. A security event is any observable occurrence in a system or network, such as a login attempt, file access, or system error, that may be indicative of a security incident. Q310. What is an incident response team? A 310. An incident response team is a group of security professionals responsible for preparing for, detecting, analyzing, and responding to security incidents in an organization. Q311. What is a honeypot? A 311. A honeypot is a decoy system or network set up to attract and deceive cybercriminals, often used to study attack methods or detect malicious activity. Q312. What is a vulnerability management program? A 312. A vulnerability management program is a systematic approach to identifying, evaluating, and mitigating vulnerabilities in an organization's network or systems to reduce security risks. Q313. What is a security incident? A 313. A security incident is an event that could potentially compromise the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of information or systems, such as a data breach or unauthorized access. Q314. What is a service level agreement? SLA? A 314. A service level agreement, SLA, is a contract between a service provider and a client that defines the expected level of service, including uptime, response time, and resolution time. Q315. What is a disaster recovery plan? DRP? A 315. A disaster recovery plan, DRP, outlines the processes, policies, and procedures for recovering and restoring IT systems, data, and services after a disaster or major disruption. Q316. What is a data classification? A 316. Data classification is the process of categorizing data based on its sensitivity and the impact of its disclosure, ensuring appropriate levels of protection are applied. Q317. What is an insider threat? A 317. An insider threat is a security risk originating from within an organization, often caused by employees, contractors, or business partners who misuse their access to systems or data. Q318. What is a password manager? A 318. A password manager is a tool or software used to securely store and manage passwords, often generating strong passwords and providing autofill functionality for websites and applications. Q319. What is a sandbox in cybersecurity? A 319. A sandbox is an isolated environment used to test and analyze untrusted files or applications without risking harm to the host system or network. Q320. What is an IP spoofing attack? A 320. IP spoofing is a technique used by attackers to impersonate another device on a network by falsifying the source IP address in a packet, often used to bypass security controls or launch other attacks. Q321. What is the role of a VPN? A 321. A virtual private network, VPN, provides secure and encrypted communication over the Internet by creating a private tunnel between the user's device and the destination network. Q322. What is multi-factor authentication, MFA? A 322, multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a security mechanism that requires users to provide two or more forms of authentication, e.g., password, fingerprint, smart card, to gain access to a system. Q323. What is a key management system, KMS? A 323. A key management system, KMS, is a system for creating, storing, and managing encryption keys used for protecting sensitive data in cryptographic systems. Q324. What is the purpose of intrusion detection systems, IDS? A 324. Intrusion detection systems, IDS, monitor network traffic or system activities for suspicious patterns or known threats, providing alerts to security teams about potential intrusions. Q325. What is an access control list, ACL? A 325. An access control list, ACL, is a set of rules that define permissions or access rights for users or groups to specific resources or objects on a system or network. Q326. What is a vulnerability scanner? A 326. A vulnerability scanner is a tool used to identify security weaknesses and vulnerabilities in systems, networks, or applications by analyzing them for known issues. Q327. What is a distributed denial of service, DDoS attack? A 327. A DDoS attack involves overwhelming a target system or network with excessive traffic, making it unavailable to legitimate users. It is usually carried out by a botnet of compromised systems. Q328. What is a packet sniffer? A 328. A packet sniffer is a tool that intercepts and analyzes network traffic, often used for monitoring network activity or troubleshooting, but can also be used by attackers to capture sensitive information. Q329. What is a security audit? A 329. A security audit is a formal review and assessment of an organization's security policies, practices, and controls to ensure compliance with security standards and identify areas for improvement. Q330. What is data loss prevention? DLP? A 330 data loss prevention (DLP) is a set of tools and processes used to prevent the unauthorized transmission, access, or loss of sensitive or confidential data. Q331. What is the purpose of endpoint security? A 331. Endpoint security is the practice of protecting devices, e.g., computers, smartphones, that connect to a network, using tools like antivirus software, encryption, and firewalls. Q332. What is the difference between detection and prevention? A 332. Detection refers to identifying an event or activity after it occurs, while prevention involves taking proactive measures to stop an attack before it happens. Q333. What is a zero trust security model? A 333. A zero trust security model assumes no user or device, whether inside or outside the network, can be trusted. Access is granted based on strict identity verification and least privilege principles. Q334. What is a security incident? A 334. A security incident refers to an event that could negatively affect the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of information or systems, such as a data breach, malware infection, or unauthorized access. Q335. What is the CIA triad? A 335. The CIA triad refers to the three core principles of information security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which form the foundation of security policies and practices. Q336. What is the purpose of a DMZ? A 336. A demilitarized zone, DMZ, is a security zone that sits between an internal network and the Internet. It typically hosts public-facing services, e.g., web servers, while isolating them from the internal network. Q337. What is port scanning? A 337. Port scanning is a technique used to discover open ports and services on a remote system, typically used by attackers to identify vulnerabilities, but also used by network administrators for security assessments. Q338. What is a Trojan horse? A 338. A Trojan horse is a type of malicious software that disguises itself as legitimate software or a file to trick users into executing it. allowing attackers to gain unauthorized access to a system. Q339. What is a botnet? A 339. A botnet is a collection of compromised devices that are controlled by an attacker, often used to launch DDoS attacks or distribute malware. Q340. What is the role of a certificate authority, CA? A 340. A certificate authority, CA, is an entity that issues digital certificates to verify the identity of organizations and individuals and to facilitate secure communication over the Internet. Q341. What is the purpose of a vulnerability assessment? A 341. A vulnerability assessment is a process of identifying, quantifying, and prioritizing vulnerabilities in a system or network to reduce the risk of exploitation. Q342. What is an encryption key? A 342. An encryption key is a string of bits used by an encryption algorithm to transform data into a secure format. It is essential for both encryption and decryption processes. Q343. What is two-factor authentication, 2FA? A 343, two-factor authentication, 2FA, is a security process where the user provides two different authentication factors to verify their identity. It typically involves something they know, password, and something they have, a mobile device. Q344. What is an RSA key? A 344. An RSA key is an encryption key used in RSA, Riva-Shamir Adelman, an asymmetric cryptographic algorithm for secure data transmission. Q345. What is the role of a certificate revocation list, CRL? A 345. A certificate revocation list, CRL, is a list of digital certificates that have been revoked before their expiration date. It helps ensure that compromised or invalid certificates are not used. Q346. What is a vulnerability scanner used for? A 346. A vulnerability scanner is a tool used to identify security weaknesses in a system, network, or application by scanning for known vulnerabilities. Q347. What is the difference between a virus and a worm? A 347. A virus is a type of malicious software that attaches itself to legitimate programs, while a worm is a standalone malware that replicates and spreads independently. Q348. What is a penetration test? A 348. A penetration test is an authorized simulated attack on a system or network to identify vulnerabilities that an attacker could exploit. Q349. What is data encryption? A 349. Data encryption is the process of converting data into a code to prevent unauthorized access, ensuring confidentiality and security. Q350. What is a denial of service DOS attack? A 350. A denial of service DOS attack is an attempt to disrupt the normal functioning of a network or system by overwhelming it with traffic or other malicious actions. Q351. What is an access control model? A 351. An access control model is a framework used to define and enforce rules for managing user access to resources. Examples include DAC, MAC, and RBAC. Q352. What is an IDS/IPS? A 352. An IDS, intrusion detection system, monitors network traffic for suspicious activity, while an IPS, intrusion prevention system, also blocks potentially harmful traffic in real time. Q353. What is a security baseline? A 353. A security baseline is a set of minimum security standards and configurations that an organization implements to protect its systems and data. Q354. What is an asymmetric encryption algorithm? A 354. An asymmetric encryption algorithm uses a pair of keys, public and private, for encryption and decryption, where the public key encrypts and the private key decrypts. Q355. What is the role of a security information and event management (SIEM) system? A 355. A SIEM system collects and analyzes security data from various sources to provide real-time monitoring, correlation, and alerting for potential security incidents. Q356. What is DNS poisoning? A 356. DNS poisoning is an attack where an attacker corrupts the domain name system, DNS, cache, redirecting users to malicious websites. Q357. What is an example of a strong password policy? A 357. A strong password policy might require a minimum length of 12 characters, a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters, and regular password changes. Q358. What is an incident response plan? A 358. An incident response plan is a set of procedures to follow when a security incident occurs. It outlines roles, responsibilities, and steps for detecting, responding to, and recovering from incidents. Q359. What is a firewall rule? A 359. A firewall rule defines how a firewall should handle incoming or outgoing traffic, specifying criteria like source IP address, destination port, and action, allow or block. Q360. What is a public key infrastructure? PKI? A 360. A public key infrastructure, PKI, is a framework that manages digital certificates, encryption keys, and certificate authorities, CAs, to secure communications and authenticate identities. Q361. What is a security patch? A 361. A security patch is an update to a software program that fixes vulnerabilities and security weaknesses to prevent exploitation by attackers. Q362. What is a DMZ in networking? A 362. A demilitarized zone, DMZ, is a network segment that sits between an internal network and the Internet, providing a buffer zone for public-facing services like web servers and email systems. Q363. What is the difference between a white hat and a black hat hacker? A 363. A white hat hacker is an ethical hacker who tests systems for vulnerabilities with permission, while a black hat hacker is an unethical hacker who exploits vulnerabilities for malicious purposes. Q364. What is the principle of least privilege? A 364. The principle of least privilege dictates that users and systems should be given the minimum level of access required to perform their tasks, reducing the risk of unauthorized actions. Q365. What is a zero-day exploit? A 365. A zero-day exploit is an attack that targets a vulnerability that is unknown to the vendor or has not been patched, making it difficult to defend against. Q366. What is data classification? A 366. Data classification is the process of categorizing data based on its sensitivity, allowing organizations to apply appropriate levels of protection and security controls. Q367. What is a vulnerability database? A 367. A vulnerability database is a repository of known security vulnerabilities, such as CV, common vulnerabilities and exposures, used by security professionals to identify and mitigate risks. Q368. What is the purpose of role-based access control, RBAC? A 368, role-based access control, RBAC, is a method of restricting access to resources based on users' roles within an organization, ensuring that users only have access to the information necessary for their duties. Q369. What is the difference between encryption and hashing? A 369. Encryption is a reversible process used to protect data confidentiality, while hashing is a one-way function that generates a fixed-size output, hash, to verify data integrity. Q370. What is phishing? A 370. Phishing is a social engineering attack where attackers trick individuals into revealing sensitive information, such as passwords or credit card numbers, often via fraudulent emails or websites. Q371. What is an intrusion detection system, IDS? A 371. An intrusion detection system, IDS, monitors network or system activities for signs of malicious behavior or policy violations and alerts administrators about potential security incidents. Q372. What is an intrusion prevention system, IPS? A 372. An intrusion prevention system, IPS, not only detects suspicious activities but also actively blocks or prevents the malicious traffic from reaching its target. Q373. What is the purpose of encryption? A 373. Encryption protects the confidentiality of data by converting it into a format that is unreadable to unauthorized users. It is essential for securing sensitive information during transmission or storage. Q374. What is a honey net? A 374. A honey net is a network of decoy systems designed to attract attackers, allowing security professionals to monitor their activities and study attack techniques. Q375. What is the purpose of an access control model? A 375. An access control model defines how access to system resources is granted based on various principles such as the user's role, identity, and security policies. Q376. What is a data breach? A 376. A data breach occurs when unauthorized individuals gain access to sensitive, confidential, or protected information, often leading to data theft, exposure, or loss. Q377. What is multi-factor authentication? MFA? A 377 multi-factor authentication MFA is a security mechanism that requires users to provide two or more forms of authentication, e.g., something they know, something they have, something they are. Q378. What is the role of a penetration tester? A 378. A penetration tester simulates cyber attacks on systems, networks, or applications to identify vulnerabilities before malicious hackers can exploit them. Q379. What is the difference between a vulnerability and a threat? A 379. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system that can be exploited by a threat, while a threat is a potential danger or risk that can cause harm to the system or organization. Q380. What is two-way SSL? A 380. Two-way SSL secure sockets layer, is a process where both the client and the server authenticate each other's identities using digital certificates, ensuring secure communication. Q381. What is an authentication protocol? A 381. An authentication protocol is a set of rules and procedures that define how users or systems verify their identity, such as Kerberos, LDAP, or Radius. Q382. What is a brute force attack? A 382. A brute force attack is a method of breaking into a system by attempting all possible combinations of passwords or encryption keys until the correct one is found. Q383. What is a keylogger? A 383. A keylogger is a type of malware that records the keystrokes made by a user on their keyboard, typically used to capture sensitive data like passwords. Q384. What is a botnet? A 384. A botnet is a network of infected computers, bots, controlled by a malicious actor, often used for sending spam, launching DDoS attacks, or distributing malware. Q385. What is a man-in-the-middle MITM attack? A 385. A man-in-the-middle MITM attack occurs when an attacker intercepts and possibly alters communications between two parties without their knowledge. Q386. What is a public key? A 386. A public key is part of an asymmetric encryption system. It is used to encrypt data, and its matching private key is used to decrypt the data. Q387. What is a private key? A 387. A private key is part of an asymmetric encryption system. It is kept secret and is used to decrypt data that has been encrypted with the corresponding public key. Q388. What is a digital signature? A 388. A digital signature is an electronic signature used to authenticate the identity of the sender and ensure the integrity of the transmitted data. Q389. What is the purpose of a security audit? A 389. A security audit is a comprehensive review of an organization's security policies, systems, and controls to ensure compliance and identify potential vulnerabilities.